Welcome back to Consumer Studies grade 11. So we're going to look at the question paper of November 2022. This is a question paper from the Eastern Cape province. So in terms of instructional information, this question paper consists of 6 questions. And of course, part 1, we've got a short questions that is all topics with 40 marks, squares with total average 20 minutes. We have got other allocations in terms of other sections that we have. We've got question 2, the consumer, question 3, food and nutrition, question 4, clothing, question 5, housing, and then we've got entrepreneurship as the last question. So that I also take note of this part whereby it reads all the instructions are compulsory. All the questions are compulsory and must be answered in the answer box. So what is important is that all the questions are compulsory. So we have to answer all the questions that were given in the question paper. So moving on to first part, which is of short questions about the choice section. A basic principle of budgeting is true. And of course, we know that a budget, budgeting in particular, is a process of creating a plan to spend an organizational resources, including money, time, and personal. So it can also be part of budgeting. So with the responses that we have, we see that the most appropriate that we have is C, whereby it reads control and keep money and keep a record of money spent. So that is the most appropriate response that we have. So moving on to number 2, variable expenses include. Remember, when you're looking at variable expenses, these are expenses that vary with the level of output. So we see that they vary with the level of units, or that is what we have on variable expenses. So with that now, which one do vary with a number of units? You see that according to our responses, you'd see that we've got clothing, entertainment, and food are the most appropriate, which represents a variable, since they vary with the number of units. So if you look at B, we've got rent, which is rent is a fixed expense. Remember, rent does not change. It remains the same from period to period, which represents a fixed cost, which is not a variable. We also have, if you look at the second part, we've got medical aid. The medical aid is a fixed expense, which is also part of that. So with that, we'd see that A becomes the most appropriate. We go to number 3, a national credit regulator. So which one best describes a national credit regulator according to the responses that we have. So you'd see that if you go to B, registers credit providers and debt counselors, which is the most appropriate that we have. So we have B as the correct answer. Then we go to number 4, an advantage of debit cards. Which one is an advantage of debit cards? We see that D, money is deducted immediately once swiped. So that is an advantage. So you can quickly inquire the balance after a transaction. So that is an advantage. But also, if excess fat in the diet can lead to, of course, we have different responses, but we see that the correct response that we have is heart disease and weight gain can be the result of excess fat. So we have got B as the correct answer. And then move on to the next question, which is now number 6. The fat found in plant oils that lowers cholesterol levels. So you'd see that that is the according to our responses, which that we also have various responses that we have. So the correct answer is C, which is polyunsaturated. This is the correct answer that we have. Number 7, this dish will be suitable for a person suffering from high blood pressure because we try to see which one two suits to a person suffering from high blood pressure. So according to our responses, we see that A, no salt is needed. So this one is the most appropriate. Number 8, food sources most likely to contain fiber, according to the combinations that we are having. So you'd say that oats, fruits, and pulses are the correct ones. So we've got B. And then we move on to number 9, a food source that will help a person who has osteoporosis. Of course, according to responses, we have got D, which is low-fat yogurt, which is the correct answer. Then move on number 10, an ingredient that will contribute to the most for a teenager or a young adult growth. So we have a D, canned fish and low-fat yogurt. So we have got D as the correct answer. Then moving on to number 11, mercerizing is a process that, of course, on number 11, the correct answer that we have is A, provides a smooth surface. So A is the correct answer. Then number 12, a chemical fabric finish that prevents the fabric from clinging to the body. You see that correct answer is static control, which we have on D. Number 13, when black is added to a color, it results in see that it results in a shade. We've got shade, which we have on B. So moving on to the next question that we have, which is going to be our question 14. So question 14, the light source that illuminates an entire room is called dash lighting. We have C, which is general lighting. Number 15, a good orientation to the sun for a house in South Africa. So the correct response that we have is C, not facing rooms to receive maximum sunlight in winter. So we have C. For number 16, an advantage of a closed floor plan. An advantage of a closed floor plan, we have our answer is D. Offers privacy for different activities. We're going to go to number 17. The entrepreneur should identify products and services that can provide for customers' needs. So we've got B. Number 18, promotion in the marketing mix involves. So the responses that we have, we see that A, advertising and sales promotions. Then the markup is the amount added to the production cost to calculate a profit at selling price. So of course, markup, if we say cost price, we add your markup. You're going to get your selling price. So that is what we have. So that makes C the correct response. Number 20, overhead costs in a business refers to. So they refer to the ongoing expenses of operating business, which we have on A. So that I will move on to the next section that we have, which is now 1.2. We have to choose the color combination from column B that matches the color harmony in column A. So with that now, we have got triadic as the first part, which is 1.2.1. And we see that it matches F, yellow, blue, and red. Yellow, blue, and red. Of course, we are saying F on the 1.2.1. The 1.2.2 complementary, yellow and purple. Analogous, we have yellow, green, green. So we have G. Double complementary. The correct response is yellow, green, purple, red, which we have on E. Then from there, we move on to 1.3. Match this stage from column B and the description in column C with a sketch in column A. Write only the A to D from column B. So this is what we have for that part, which is now 1.3. So on 1.3, of course, we have a growth. So we are going to indicate where we have our growth. So we'd say that our growth is on 1.3.2. That's where we've got the growth stage. This is the growth stage. So we are having 1.3.2. So we are having A on this part. And then the next one is the decline. And of course, on the decline is on the last stage, which we're having on that part. So we've got B on this part. And then we've got introduction. That's where we've got the initiation of the cycle, which is this part. Of course, that's where we put our C. And the maturity, that's where they reach at the maximum point, which is at this part. So we've got a D on this part. So that is exactly what we have. So in other words, we are saying our C is 1.3.1, our A is 1.3.2, our D is 1.3.3, and then we put our B being 1.3.4. So that was what we have on that section. We'll move on to the next section, which is now 1.4. So 1.4, we have to give one word or term for each of the following descriptions. Write only the word or term next to the person numbers. Of course, a consumer who records whose records show that they have struggled to pay their debt over a consistent period. So we see that this is obviously a blacklist. We can write blacklist as the correct term. So this is a consumer whose records show that they have struggled to pay their debt over a consistent period. So they are blacklisted. So basically that's the case that we have on this part. Then 1.4.2, when a person or small business receive funds from individual instead of a bank. So this is micro lending. Remember, micro lending is associated with small amounts. So small amounts usually they are not issued by banks. So individuals tend to go to microfinance. So we've got micro lending. Then we go to 1.4.3. When a credit provider grants credit to a customer without conducting an affordability assessment, this is reckless lending. Then 1.4.4, a fraudulent system of making money based on recruited members, where at each level the number of new members increase, is pyramid scheme. So of course, this is a pyramid scheme which we have this. So with that, we move on to the next part of our question, which is now 1.5. We have to identify 4 statements in the list below that identify the correct vitamin to its function in relation to the blood. Write the letter H next to the question number next to the question number 1.5. So of course, so you'll see that the statements that are correct, we have got B, we have got C, we have E, and also we have T. So these are the statements that are correct. So moving on to the next question, which is going to be our question 2, which is on now on section B, long questions, the consumer. Give the name of the organization that keeps a record of an individual's credit information. Remember, this is the credit bureau, which we have as indicated. And then the main difference between a cash transaction and a credit transaction, cash transactions involve a direct exchange of money for goods. Credit transactions when goods and services are received, but the payment is made later. So that's credit. So credit, obviously, the payment will be received later. Usually involves interest. So you can take note. Usually, again, if the period that you're supposed to pay is not, you don't manage to pay, obviously it's going to attract more interest. So that is what we have. And then on the next question, which is 2.3, list 3 consumer rights relating to credit customers. So in terms of that 2.3, you see that these are the consumer rights related to credit customers that we have. Right to apply for credit is the first one. the right not to be discriminated against when applying for credit, the right to be given reasons for credit being declined, the right to be given documents in an official language that the consumer understands. So that's another right that we have. And also the right to documents in a plain language. So we've got various rights that way. But of course, the question requires three consumer rights. So that's what we Then on the next question, list 4 ways to reduce bank charges. So these are the ways to reduce bank charges. Use a credit card or debit card. Yes, it is cheaper. Use ATM, EFT, POS, or telephone, cell phone, etc. And then also further points we also have of ways to reduce our bank charges. So moving on to the next question. Read this information below and answer the questions that follow. We are given information that you need to read. So beneath the information, quote one sentence that gives the reason why household expenditure is shown an increase. So of course, we need to try to identify where it has shown an increase. So if we come on this sentence, we would see that this indicates that the households are slowly getting back on their feet after their financial repercussions of the pandemic. So basically, this is the sentence that we can highlight. So basically, that's what we have in terms of 2.5.1. Then 2.5.2 state the category in the household expenditure that showed the most growth. So we can state the category in the household expenditure that showed the most growth. So of course, we have to refer back and try to see according to the information that we're given. But of course, you'd see that it's stated on this part whereby we've got clothing and footwear, which is 12.2%. 22.2% is our correct percentage. So it means the 22.2% is higher than 8.9 and 9.8. So that makes it the correct response that we have. Then 2.5.3, give the full name for the abbreviation Stats SA. So we know that this is Statistics South Africa. Statistics South Africa is stated. So we are saying it's Statistics South Africa. And then on the next question, describe the term expenditure patterns. This the typical ways consumers spend money on goods and services. That is expenditure patterns. So we've got also alternative descriptions that we can give. Then 2.5.5, explain why the expenditure group restaurants and hotels are declined. That's a 2.5.5. So refer back to the information that we have. So we try to refer to the information that we are given. So we try to go back and see why they've declined, but we know that this was in the fourth quarter of 2020. So this is what we have. So in that case, we give a reason within the context of the information that we are given. So if we come here, you said there has been a decline in spending restaurants and hotels. So what do you think can be the reason for that? So within that context, you'll see that restaurants and hotels were closed during the lockdown. Therefore, people got into the habit of finding other sources for takeaway meals or entertainment. Remember, the 2020 was the time of the COVID-19 pandemic, so they were locked down. So those are the reasons that are being raised. And then also with the rise of the second wave of COVID-19, restaurants had limited hours to operate due to the curfew, and people did not want to attend social gatherings in fear of getting infected with the coronavirus. So further points we also have that are also explaining that. In 2.6.1, we move on to see what we have in terms of 2.6.1, of course, or 2.6, we have to study the table below and answer the questions that follow. So we've got the table that we have. So the question reads, explain why there is a big difference in the percentage of the household income spent on food when comparing the two income groups. So of course, we've got the low income and lower middle income group, and then we've got upper middle income and affluent group. So in response to that, you would see that the food is a basic need for survival. And therefore, it will be prioritized in lower income groups. The high income groups have sufficient money to also spend on other needs and wants. So basically, that's the reason. We also have further points that we can also include. Then we go to 2.6.2, analyze why the percentage of the salary that goes towards housing in the higher income group is much greater than that of the lower income group. So with that, you see that the higher income groups can afford the better housing in better areas. Therefore, those costs being more. Also, you need less money to live in a cheaper area. So typically, and then I will make a second point. Higher income groups have the ability to save with greater bonds or access credit. Therefore, they have monthly repayments on the home loans are to pay. So these are the points that we have that we can include. And moving on to number 2.7, you have to start the information of the planned finances for TED, a student at a tertiary education college. Answer the questions that follow. So this is the information that you are given that you need to analyze. Then beneath that, now identify the expense in the budget that is put aside to achieve a long-term goal. Identify the expense in the budget that is put aside to achieve a long-term goal. So with that, we see that we have got savings. Savings is our response. Remember, we have got savings on this part. Remember, our savings obviously, this is income that's being set aside for a future use. So obviously, they achieve a long-term goal. So that is what we have. So we've got savings. Then on the second part, identify two sources of income in this budget. What are the sources of income that we have in the budget? So we go there and see what do we have. We have got part-time job. It's a source of income. Part-time job. Also, we have got check again in terms of any other source that we can see. So if we go at the beginning, they're saying start the information of a planned finances for TED, a student at a tertiary college. So we try to see where we can find we've got money living expenses from a bursary fund. So we see that the bursary fund is also another source of income that we have there. Bursary fund is indicated. So that is what we have for that part. And then move on to the next question. Calculate the total expenditure of the fixed cost. So you have to identify the fixed costs that we have. Of course, if you check, remember fixed costs are costs that do not change, that remain the same from period to period. We've got rent. Rent is a fixed expense of 3,500. We also have a cell contract. It's a contract, obviously, to be fixed. And then we have savings, also 10% of income will be 10% of income every month. So that is what we have as fixed. So we are supposed to add the 3,500 plus 425 plus 950. So basically that's what we have on that part. So if you calculate the 3, you're supposed to get 4,875 funds. So next question, discuss how these financial resources have influenced the expenses in this budget. So we refer back to how his financial resources have influenced the expenses in the budget. So you see that You see that he has a basin also as part of our explanation. So we see that this is our response to that. Moving on to question 3, which is on food and nutrition. So the first question that we have, give the name of the structural units that make up proteins. And of course, you see that the structural units that make up proteins, we have amino acids. And then on the next question, you have to state two types of carbohydrates that provide the body with energy. We can have sugars and starches. Then on the next question, list two health problems that result from eating too much fat, with obesity, heart disease, high blood cholesterol. And then complete the table. Of course, we have got at the table that we are given that we need to complete. Uh, for each vitamin listed below, select one good food source from the pictures provided. Classify the vitamins as water soluble or fat soluble. Do not redraw the table. So, of course, if you go down, we've got the picture A, B, and C. So you have to identify which one according to uh, uh, the question. So going back to our question, you see that on the first part we have to identify vitamin C. So vitamin C, according to the pictures that we are given, you would see that we have C, which indicates a orange. This is an orange that we have, and that indicates our vitamin C. And then in terms of what being water or fat soluble, you'd see that it is water soluble. Then moving on to vitamin A, according to the pictures that we have, you'd see that this is carrots are part of vitamin A. So if B, so it means here we C. And then in terms of being water or fat soluble, that it is a fat soluble. So these are the responses that we have. Then moving on to 3.5. Start the table below and answer the questions that follow. We give you the nutrient content of pulses, whereby you put column for sugar beans, chickpeas, lentils, soybeans. So, of course, we've got concentrations in terms of proteins, carbohydrates, magnesium, potassium, iron. Then, first question, you have to identify the pulse with the highest starch content. So, of course, highest starch content, we are going to come where we have our carbohydrates. So we check which one is got the highest. So if you come on carbohydrates, you'll see that the highest is on this part whereby we have got chickpeas. So yes, our correct response is chickpeas. So that's what we have for that part. Then moving on to the next question, which is now 3.5.2. 3.5.2 reads, distinguish between the classification of nutrients as micronutrients and there's macronutrients and micronutrients by referring to the information in the nutrient column. So our macronutrients are required in large amounts in the body. Then protein and carbohydrates are macronutrients. So this is the explanations that we have in terms of 3.5.2. So moving on to the next question, which is now 3.5.3. Explain the term biological value. Refer to the pulse examples in the table in your answer. So you see that biological value refers to the number of essential amino acids and the protein has. It measures the quality of the protein and the ability of the protein to carry out these two building functions. So further explanations we also have in terms of that. 3.6, you have to identify the three types of food contamination in the illustration below. So on A, you see that this is micro and biological. B, we have chemical, and then C is a physical. So we have that is also uh, mentioned in our other section whereby we've got microbiological, chemical, physical. Then in terms of the next question, uh, you have to describe three possibilities how cross-contamination could take place when preparing the broccoli and the chicken as seen in the picture below. Of course, the picture that we have, we can just refer to the picture that we have. So this is the picture that we have, and the question reads, describe three possibilities how cross-contamination could take place when preparing broccoli and chicken as seen in the picture below. So if the hands are unwashed, uh, that can also cause cross-contamination, hands not washed, and then you see that if the knife again, if contaminated, also it can be the source, and also if the chicken that we see is also contaminated, and if the chopping board, you see that there's a chopping board that is there, if it's not washed again, that can also be such a scenario. So we have also those as mentioned on this part whereby we are saying if the hands are unwashed and the food is touched, the knife, if contaminated and is used for both food or wash the knife, uh, and then we also have if the chicken is contaminated and the knife was used on the chicken. So that's another scenario. The chopping board was not washed or is not clean. So those are another point that we have. Also, the chicken and broccoli should not be prepared on the same board or use separate boards. So those basically, these are the points that we have. And of course, that our question requires us to come up with 3 points. So on the next part, 3 points. 8, you have to discuss why a person who has food poisoning is at risk of dehydration and how can this be prevented. So these are the explanations that we have. Food poisoning usually has the symptoms of vomiting and diarrhea, which results in a loss of fluid. They have to drink plenty of fluids to replace what has been lost or replace fluids or have soup or fruit juices. So these are the typical responses that we can give. The body has lost electrolytes that is salt, glucose, minerals. It can be replaced with oral rehydrates. So basically, this is what we have. So on the next question again, define the term food fortification, whereby this means to strengthen foods with vitamins and minerals in or addition of minerals and vitamins. So basically, this is what we have on that part. So moving on, we'll see that we have to read the information below on 3.9 and answer the questions that follow. Of course, we've got information that we have, which reads, in March 2019, Danone started fortifying the Nutri-Day yogurt with zinc and continued with iron fortification from May 20. The brand aims to evolve from just a yogurt to a convenient, affordable, fortified nutritional product that addresses nutritional deficiencies through a nutritional solution that can drive our children forward. So the first one is to define the term food fortification. Of course, we have got the definition of food fortification on this part. Then on the next part, you have to analyze how this initiative by Danone complements the existing national food fortification program in South Africa. So how does it complement the National Food Fortification Program in South Africa? So in response to that, you'd say that in South Africa, the existing program is that it is compulsory since 2003 for millers and bakers to fortify all maize meal and bread flour, that is white and brown, food in bread, or commonly eaten foods with vitamins and minerals. So these are the explanations that we have. Vitamin A, B1, B2, B3, and B6, folic acid. So typically, these are the points that we're supposed to come up with. And we have also a continuation of those points. And this marks at the end of our question 3. And from there, we move on to our question 4. We move on to question 4, which is on clothing. So it reads, refer to the picture below and answer the questions that follow. Of course, we have here picture A and also picture B. So On the first question, it says identify the dominant type of line used in the traces. So you'd see that the dominant that we have is diagonal. Diagonal line is the one that we have. So we have it as I mentioned. And then on the second question, give you the optical illusion created in each picture and give a reason for each of your answers. So, of course, picture A, the optical illusion is that of a taller or slimmer. And then on B, it's shorter or broader. So that's what we have. And then the explanations that we have also on that was we have got a taller or slimmer in the explanation, and on B, shorter or broader. Then well, for 4.1.3, set two other effects that is created by the use of this type of line, which is a dynamic, dramatic movement, action. So these are the responses that you can choose from. Then you go to move on to 4.2. So on 4.2, you have to explain why sketch A is referred to as shape and sketch B would be an example of form. So in response to that, the drawing is an outline and shape refers to the outside lines. The shoe shape is 2D and the shoe shows no depth or it is flat. So it would also be the drawing shows the outside lines as well as the area within the lines. You can see where your foot goes in or the empty space. So this is basically the what we have. Then on 4.3. Moving on to 4.3, whereby you have to refer to the sketch below and other questions that follow. So we have the sketch that we have, and then it reads identify two different ways that rhythm has been achieved. Explain how each one has been achieved. Tabulate your answer as shown. So we've got way achieved, and then we've got the explanation. So within that context, we'd see that on way achieved, you can put your repetition, gradation, and we've got also alternation. Alternation also is another option. So with the explanations that we have, we've got repetition and the explanation. We've got also gradation with the explanation, alternation with the explanation. We'll move on to 4.4. Describe how this design element could be an example of radial balance. That is this is the design element that we have. So in response to that, so if we check in terms of our question, it says describe how this design element could be an example of radial balance. So in response to that, radial balance at the design center of middle of dress is in a shape of a circle. It is arranged around this central point and in a circular pattern form around it. So this is an explanation that we also have put an alternative explanation that you can also include. So moving on to the next question, which is now 4.5. Write a paragraph on the design element texture. Begin with the definition of texture. Then name the two types of texture and differentiate between the two. So this part, so this is a typical paragraph that we have on 4.5. So I'm moving on to our next question, which is now our 4.6. We have to study the sketch of the two course styles below and answer the questions that follow. So what's A and B? whereby believe that it is a body shape that is described as round, especially around the middle area. Give the name of the body shape that is described above. So with the images that we have there, you will see that it is uh, an oval or apple body shape. So it's an oval or apple body shape. Then on the second part, we have to evaluate the two courses to select the best one for this body shape. You have to evaluate the two courses to select the best one for this body shape. So we have explanations in terms of court A and court B. So within that context, you see that in terms of court A, the belt draws attention to the waistline area, making the area larger, or draw attention to the waist. The horizontal line in the hemline of the sleeve creates a wider look at the hip. That's on court A. Then court B, no horizontal line. So we can just maybe refer back. This is our court B. And the explanation on court B, no horizontal line or belt to cut the body in half, and the attention is taken away from their midriff, and midriff give a slimmer look. So these are the evaluation that we have in terms of court A and court B. And we'll see that this marks the end of our question 3 with a total of 30 marks. Question 5, the housing and interior. Start the furniture plan below and answer the question that follow. So we given a furniture plan that we have. So this is our furniture plan. So with that, we move on to the first question. Give the name of the zone represented by the kitchen. So you'll see that the zone represented by the kitchen will be the work area. It is the work area. Then we move on to our other section. You see that this is our response. And then state what the following architectural symbols represent, which we have on this part. State what the following architectural symbol represents on the floor plan. So it is wardrobe or cupboard or closet or storage. So this is the response that we have on that part, whereby we have got wardrobe, cupboard, closet or storage. Then state how many task lightings are provided. We move on to the next question. State how many task lightings are provided on for in this home. So we refer back, and our response is we've got 3. So moving on to the next part of our question. Identify 3 possible problems regarding the placement of the front entrance door related to the zone in the right half of this home. Identify 3 possible problems regarding the placement of the front entrance door related to the zone in the right half of this home. So so in response to that, these are the points that we have. The main thoroughfare coming into and exiting in the private quiet zone. Then the front door is opposite the bathroom, or someone comes out the bathroom straight after bathing. So these are typical points that we can give in terms of that. Then on the next question, you have to discuss how a provision is made, how provision has been made for this home to be a work from home environment. So in response to that, these are the responses that we have. So moving on to the next question, which is now 5.1.6. Motivate with a desk chair. Motivate with a desk chair which desk chair would be the better choice for using in the desk area with regards to the material that the frame is made from. So of course we have got image A and also we have got image B. So in terms of chair A, in terms of our chair A, this is the response that we have. And then chair B also, these are the responses that we have. So we refer back again to the images of A and B, and also now the responses A and B. In 5.1.7, select two criteria that would be considered when buying this sleeper couch and elaborate on each criterion. So in response to that, we've got economy, strength and durability, aesthetics, environmental responsibility, consumer responsibility. So we have a continuation of our points whereby the following two criteria were trimmed from this section, but must still be marked if the learner is listed at them. So this is the requirements of the marker. So in terms of the extension of our points, remember we were looking at economy, strength and durability, aesthetics, environmental responsibility, consumer responsibility. We also have suitability for needs and human factors as also additional points. Question 6 is on entrepreneurship. So the first question, give the name of the term used for a written statement which outlines the key requirements for making an item. So this is product specification. Product specification. So we have product specification, and then of course the next question, define the term market segment. It's a group of customers with common needs and interests who differ from other groups and who will respond similarly to a market action. Also important alternative explanation. Then 6.3, explain how a business can develop a competitive edge for its product. The first point is find out about other business or competitors in your area. They have to think of ways that their product can be better than their competitors. So your product must be different or unique to others in the marketplace. So these are the typical points that you can come up with. Then 6.4.1, give the factor that Sherpa considered when his product choice was designing jeans due to his love for denim fabric and fashion. We've got passion is our response. So moving on to 6.4.1. 6.4.1. So you have to read the case study below and answer the questions that follow. We're given a case study of Shepo, the gene maker, that you need to read. So beneath the case study, we've got a question, give the factor that Shepo considered when this product choice was designing jeans due to his love of denim fabric and fashion. So in terms of the factor, you'll see that obviously this is a passion. So you have to refer back to the information that we have. So in terms of the next question, you have to state how Shepo achieved the following before he created 100 pairs of jeans. Start with a low capital outlay, obtain some skills before you start, have a form of transport. So in response to that, he got a loan for 8,000 rands on A, and B, he had learned the basics of sewing and pattern making. He imported this knowledge obtained by researching on the internet. The road C, you have a form of transport. He saw these jeans from a bike. So this is information that he gives given in the case study that we have. Moving on to the next question, 6.4.3. Identify which P in the marketing mix is represented by the following. A is the presidential slim fit. So you'd see that this is the product. Then selling his jeans from a backpack. This is the place. Then 6.4.4, state two quotes from sentences in the case study, which appear before Shepo opened a retail store in Johannesburg to prove that Shepo applied the core principle of marketing called target specific markets. So with that, you see that the response that we have. The first one is that Shepo started making custom jeans for clients and built up a customer base. He created men's jeans. He made them available